if you're talking about Premier League men's players, financially they shouldn't have to work again, whereas in the women's game they do. So, or often they do.
Obviously, there's a big transition out of the game, regardless of whether you're financially stable or not.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is that, you know, there's a difference between what player care is for first team players, for adult players, kind of removing distractions off the pitch that affect them on the pitch. With academy players, young children, it's about giving them the life skills to be able to either have a successful football career or a successful life outside of football. So the money's not there in the women's game yet for the players. So it's a lot more about what are they going to do after a playing career. My ambitions have changed. Whereas when I was 23, I wanted to be Champions League winning head of player care or whatever, even more than that. And now I'm like, I want to have a good personal life and a good work life.
It's just a lot of reflection. It's a lot of experiences. It's a lot of understanding yourself, most importantly.
Counter argument I get for player care a lot is that you're just there to like, I don't do it, that's right. You know, wipe their bums. You know, you're just there to be like, you know, a gopher to the players. They click their fingers and player care, we run around to sort that. And it's not the case.
Yes, people, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the List Podcast, Life in Sport, hosted by me, T. And today, it brings me great pleasure to bring this guest, a guest that I'm really proud to have got down today, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves and who they are.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hugo Scheckter, founder and managing director of the Player Care Group, previously head of player care at West Ham, Southampton and Brentford.
Okay, so this is a conversation, an episode I'm really excited to do because for a couple of factors. First, it's hearing your story, your insight and things like that. But secondly, I'm someone that has always been clear, like on LinkedIn, that I want to get into player care. So then to be able to speak with you on this one-to-one basis and get to know is a real privilege for me. So again, thank you so much for coming down.
No, thanks for having me.
So,
really excited.
How I like to start my episodes is with a bit of reflection. We start with a bit of reflection, might end with a bit of reflection. So I asked the person 3 questions. So let's start with question number 1. Name one good thing that happened today, or if it's too early, think yesterday.
Today, bloody hell. Yeah, my morning coffee was delicious. There we go. That's a nice, easy thing. I had to drive a little bit to get here, so got to a nice little local coffee shop and got a nice coffee.
Okay,
so I like the little things in life, you know.
Okay.
Like
And what second is how did you make it happen? I bought the coffee.
yeah. I ordered really well.
You looked at that menu.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the final was how do you build and repeat? How do you build?
I feel like you were looking for something a little bit more deep and
I know,
meaningful.
but I mean, I'm not looking for something deep.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I feel like that's my fault.
No.
But you know what? It's a good way to start.
No.
It breaks the ice a little bit.
I think. How do you build and repeat? Go to the coffee shop again, or
go to more coffee shops. You know. No, look. I think like I'm lucky that it's quite early in the morning, so we haven't really had much to do yet. But I like to try and get out of the house and break up my routine because when you work for yourself, you can end up being in the house quite a lot. So I like to get out in the morning, grab a coffee, and just start my day by leaving. Because obviously everyone who has a commute doesn't want to commute, but when you don't have a commute, you actually do need to get out and break your day up.
I'm not. I think let's. The little why do you say the little things are so important? I mean, it goes without they are important, but why do you think they're important?
Well, I think like sometimes you can build up things in your life that are such a you're like, oh, well, if I don't get this, if I don't buy a house by 30, or if I don't get married by this point, my life won't be a success. But actually, I think to celebrate little successes and certainly having your own business, and I'm sort of year 4 now-ish of my own business, like. Actually, like we have really little wins regularly, and then we have to celebrate the big wins as well. But if you're like, I only celebrate when we get a big win, then actually it can be pretty sad a lot of the times because they don't come, every week or every month, and so you need little things to help you get through it. I think.
I know it's little bite size, isn't it? You just sort of like slowly attaining.
Yeah.
And those I'm big on the little wins add up to a big win sort of thing. But yeah, nah, little wins, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Celebrate them.
yeah, for sure.
Don't go crazy, but you know, like
Yeah, yeah,
acknowledge
yeah,
them.
yeah,
You get me,
yeah,
like.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So let's talk about your passion for football.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, yeah, you've probably been asked this question millions and millions and millions of times.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do, yeah, rather than ask you the question,
Yeah.
I'm gonna answer it myself.
Okay.
And then you're gonna be like,
All right.
I agree with you, or
All right. Go
that's
for it.
rubbish.
Go for it.
Okay, so obviously you've worked in player care at Brentford, West Ham, and Newcastle,
Yeah.
and you've got your consultancy, the player care group,
Yeah.
and you do a lot of different things there.
Yeah.
So what is player care? Like, so I'm gonna answer this
Go
because
for it.
I'm like
All right.
thinking, like you go to a lot of events,
Sure, sure.
you're known in that scene,
Yeah,
so you're
yeah,
probably
yeah.
thinking, you probably got a thing in your head where, yeah, this is what player care is.
Yeah.
So what is player care? So when I think about it and I
Yeah.
put myself on the spot very smartly, I feel like player care is looking at all aspects of the footballer off the pitch and supporting them off the pitch holistically and emotionally and operationally.
Yeah.
And that and working alongside different people in their support network
Yeah.
to provide them the best support so they can develop as a person. That's what I have got to understand what player care is based on various conversations and Google searches.
Yeah.
How much do you agree or
Yeah,
disagree?
pretty much there. I think the only thing I would say is that, there's a difference between what player care is for first team players, for adult players, which is what you kind of said, which is kind of removing distractions off the pitch that affect them on the pitch. With academy players, young children, it's about giving them the life skills to be able to either have a successful football career or a successful life outside of football. So slightly different when you're talking about kids, but yeah, I mean, pretty spot on there. So yeah. Well done, Tarek.
Yeah, no, they are vastly different. And the thing is, even if you break it down more into like the different stages of the academy, the type of support you give young children there, and it's the same in school.
Yeah.
Like the type of support you give children in primary school, middle of secondary school, and college is different. And it's the same in the academy setting.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got women's player care as well, which is probably the same as first team player care.
Yeah, in a way, but I think the money's not there in the women's game yet for the players. So it's a lot more about what are they going to do after a playing career. Whereas if you're talking about Premier League men's players, financially they shouldn't have to work again. Whereas in the women's game they do. Or often they do. So again, slightly different. To say that men's and women's player care I think is the same is wrong. But there are certainly key aspects which are similar. But it has to be a tailored approach.
Of course. So in women's player care, you're probably supporting more the dual career side of things and the transitions.
100%.
I mean, obviously, there's a big transition out of the game, regardless of whether you're financially stable or not.
Yeah,
but
it's different. I think if you're like, well, I'm going to have to work again to pay, put food on the table. That's very different to I'm going to have to work again to stay busy. And like, there's different pressures. So if you just need to have some sort of routine, then you can have maybe something a little bit more aspirational. So we see a lot of players do like soccer schools, or we see them doing like clothing lines or whatever. And I'm not sure we need another football and clothing line, to be honest, but it kind of is what it is. But those guys are trying to do something to keep them busy rather than trying to like generate real money to put on the table.
Yeah.
Whereas you see a lot of the sort of players down the leagues, also in the women's game, are saying like, I need an actual income. So I work with her. I work with her very loosely, but a player at West Ham who was a trained locksmith.
Okay.
And so she was playing and she was also a locksmith. And that was something where she kept both up, because it was something where that's a career for her once she retires. Whereas, I don't think we're going to see, Erling Haaland doing his locksmith apprenticeship. It's just not a realistic thing that he would need to do.
I think it's quite similar in rugby as well in terms of like the women that are full-time professionals, not all of them, but they're getting paid a wage that's pretty standard, like full-time wage, but nothing like life-changing like what a men's rugby player would earn. So I don't know if that's a whole other topic for discussion, but I think the point I'm making with that is sort of like the dual career aspect again, and the having to transition to make a living rather than just to keep busy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you've got to focus on everything. But when you focus on everything, like you sometimes focus on nothing. And so like it's just where your priorities are at. It depends on the players you're working with, the club you're working at, and kind of the resource you have as well. You know, if you're at a club where you have 5-player care staff, then you're gonna have a very different offering to if you're by yourself, you know, looking after maybe 2 teams or something like that. So it's a lot of variances, but it's ultimately, you know, the core of it's very similar.
So we're gonna get onto that in a little bit.
Okay.
But firstly, I want to talk about you, Hugo. I want to
Okay.
talk about your journey,
Yeah.
where you've been. I've done like a little bit of research. I watched your little 6-minute video on
Yeah.
on the player care group channel from like however many years ago. But let's get into that. Let's talk about first your passion for football, and we'll start and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I was young, I really loved football. It started from Championship Manager, which is before Football Manager. I'm that old, and I used to love that. I mean, just pour hours and hours into it. So I think
It's
a lot
an
of people,
addicting
yeah,
game, man.
people can resonate with that. And then I kind of got pushed. You know, my one of my teachers said to me, he's like, "Well, you love your football. Why don't you do something constructive with it?" And so got me into my coaching badges, and I did that, and I started coaching quite a lot. And I thought that was going to be my career path. I thought I'd be a coach, and I think what I realised is that I was a pretty average coach. To be fair, like coaching's not my bag, but what I was good at was managing people and the organisation side, and so as I progressed through my coaching badges and through sort of, you know, from kids teams to adults teams on both the girls and the men and the women's side, I kind of realized like what we were good at as a team was being organized, supporting people as people. And I remember I went to uni in America, and one of my mentors out there just said, you could end up being an okay coach, but you could be really good if you went sort of back of house in a team. He said, I think you should consider that. And so I did. And, you know, when I left uni, I probably could have gone and been like, you know, gone in the American college coaching and been like an assistant coach somewhere for a number of years. But I just don't think I would have been really happy with it. And so I went and tried to find a job in professional football in like a back of house kind of role. And my first job was in Indianapolis in what was then a new team called Indy 11. And it's kind of in America, teams just like appear, you know, like they just get created and they're in the second division. And, you know, I was like the 10th, 11th, I can't remember, member of staff there, but we had nothing. We had no training ground. We had no kit. We had no players. We had, you know, one coach. And so we got to help build a club from scratch, which was an unbelievable experience. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's really trying to like, it wasn't what I planned. I didn't grow up dreaming of being a player care person. I think that's. I mean, I would found that weird. Like obviously now maybe people do. I don't know, but like you know, it would. Yeah, okay, there we go. So it's not weird, but it wasn't really a thing when I was growing up that it was like an aspirational thing. So I kind of fell into it more than I wanted to do it.
I mean, it's quite a niche career. Like it's a new area.
Yeah.
So what I found interesting, what made you think you were an okay coach or below average or however you would like phrase it?
Yeah, I never played, and I think that makes it hard. You know, like there are obviously some coaches who didn't play professionally, but even they played at some level. Like I don't think I've ever played 90 minutes of football in my life. So like, I had an understanding from watching from afar, from playing Football Manager and whatever, but my knowledge of the game wasn't as good as other people. And I think also I didn't really have a passion for like tactical. You know, I remember reading a book called Inverting the Pyramid on which is a great tactics book on the sort of history of tactics in football. And I found the historic stuff really interesting, but then I didn't find the actual like X's and O's that interesting. And so my teams would just play the same formation every game. And it was good because you were like well drilled and the players knew exactly what their role was, and it was good. But I wasn't really able to see the game in the way that other people could. And I think I probably could, you know, like I found that having a British accent in America made you a lot more credible when it came to football. And I got a high school girls coaching gig based off that. I'm pretty sure. I mean, we were great, but it was a great experience. But I'm not sure that there was really any interview process. But I just also felt like I knew that I kind of had reached my peak, which was like coaching at the sort of student-run college side. So like there's in America the college is the varsity, which is the scholarship kids, and then there's like this low level below. And I kind of felt that was my peak of my coaching abilities. I did actually go back recently and coach non-league in England at Stonewall FC about 2 years ago, but again, like I was an average coach. And like you could ask the players that I coached, like we had a good time. I think we didn't win many games, but we were well organized, and I thought like the team had a good feeling around it. But tactically, it just wasn't there. And the manager who's coming after me has done a much better job. So like, I think it's really important in life to know when you're not the best option for something. And I've always tried to do that in my career, is bring around people who my weaknesses are their strengths, so that we can make a better team.
How come, even like if you considered yourself not a strong coach, how come you still went back to non-league in the UK? Or at that point, had you like not?
Yeah, you know what? I was the company. I was a bit. It was a bit quiet. We had like a quiet period with the company, and I was like, it'd be good just to meet new people. You know, like as an adult, you know, living in London, I have my friend group and I have a good set of friends. But I was like, it'd be good to meet new people.
Yeah.
And one of my friends played for the team, and they were looking for a new reserves manager, and I just thought, why not? And I think what I was shocked. Well, it sounds awful, but I'd been so used to Premier League environments, where like you have like 30 staff around a team. And I remember like the reality of coaching in step 8 of non-league was like pretty shocking, where like I was doing all the kit laundry, you know, like I'd be working at Brentford during the day as head of player care, and then in the evening I'd be going to sit at a petrol station, you know, putting the kit in a washing machine, and then, you know, traveling, you know, away, and you've got the whole back line go on a holiday together because they're mates. It's like, well, Thomas Frank doesn't have to deal with this, you know. So and then, you know, you get there, the floodlights aren't working, or the pitch is locked, or someone's forgotten the balls, or whatever. And it just, you get to a point where you're like, this is bloody hard. And I think like I enjoyed it because I met a lot of good friends and good people, but it was a lot more work than I kind of anticipated. And it just, and then I got, in the middle of the season, I got offered Brent, like to be interim head of player care at Brentford. And, you know, I was commuting 3 hours a day, and then having to like leave Brentford early at like 3 o'clock because Brentford are in Hounslow, Stonewall playing
Yeah.
Stratford. You know, for people
Hot
on in
cut.
London, that's
Cut.
a long. I mean, it's only like 15 miles, but it's a long way to drive.
But 15 miles in London is
Yeah,
like,
yeah, especially in rush hour. So I would say spend 3 hours driving, get to training. There'd be like 10 people show up. You know, you're just like, what am I doing? So I kind of had to like half step down during the middle of the season, and I was just like, I felt really bad because I committed to them for a year, and I couldn't. I let them down in that regard. But I had a vision for it, and I wanted people to be treated right, and I wanted there to be, you know, a good onboarding process, and I put a lot of my player care stuff into the coaching. But that's good enough to have a good squad, and you get the odd result, but you have to be like tactically switched on even at that level, because there are some good players there. And we just won, I think we won 3 games all season or 4 games all season, and like we were actually mid-table because it was quite of a weak league. But, you know, like it just wasn't my bag. And you know, like I'm working at the Premier League level at multiple clubs with my player care, and I'm step 8 and non-league on my coaching. It you know, we are 13 promotions away from being the same level as what I am, you know, on my day job. So it just wasn't for me. And I think like, mate, you know, maybe I'd go back to it again, but I think probably my time's done. Like it's I have such respect for those people who work in non-league, because they give up so much time for quite little reward, really.
it's kind of like, you got me thinking of the football manager analogy.
Yeah.
Like if you put like a 3-star player, like if you put a player at a top 6 team,
Yeah.
they're like 3.5 star, but you put them like somewhere lower down the
Yeah,
league,
yeah.
it's like they're a 5-star player,
Sure.
they're the best at the club. And
Sure.
I mean, that's kind of the pattern I'm seeing, like between you coaching in non-league and
Yeah.
then player care in the
Yeah.
Premier League.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'd be like half a grade out star if I was football manager as a coach. But yeah, like, you know, it was interesting. I've met some good friends from it, but like I left it behind, and like I think it was best for everyone that I didn't continue. So,
Okay.
and I think again, like that's kind of been a pattern in my career where it's been, when I think I'm not the best person to do the job anymore, if I haven't got the passion anymore, which, you know, has happened, where you kind of burn out, I'll happily fall on my sword and go, you need someone who's younger or more passionate or or better even, and that's in player care and in coaching and everything. You know, it's knowing when you're not the right person anymore.
I think it's so important to know just as much as what you want to do, not know what you don't want to do, or
Yeah.
know what's. I feel like it's so easy to fall into when it's not the right fit, feel disheartened, rather than take the positive and be like, this is good because I know I'm not going to do that again, or I know I shouldn't do that again, and I know that will avoid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's a really commendable skill to have, and
thank you.
I think people should really take that in terms of. So let's talk a bit about player care then, and so it was at Southampton you started. So let's start with that and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I've been in Indianapolis, but I wasn't really doing player care there because I was basically in charge of so much stuff. You know, like, because you didn't have any staff, I was doing contracts for the league. I was doing international registrations with FIFA. I was sweeping the training ground. I was buying the drinks. I was doing the laundry. You know, like you end up doing everything at a small club. So I didn't really ever focus on player care. So when I got offered the Southampton gig, it was like, oh, I'm gonna have my whole day just doing this. Like, how am I ever gonna fill my day? And then very quickly you realise, oh, there's actually really a lot to do. So, yeah, Southampton was the first club I joined, first Premier League club I joined. Sorry, I think I was like we were the 13th club to have player care or something like that. It was kind of still quite new. And
what year was this?
This was 2014. So,
Okay.
about 11 years ago. So, yeah, some clubs had like a lot of clubs had one person, but a lot of clubs had nothing really. And so I joined, was 23 years old, really quite young to be, you know, in a first team environment of a Premier League club. But for whatever reason, they saw something in me and gave me that opportunity, and I'm forever grateful for that. But it was, you know, they'd never had player care before, so the players didn't really have any expectations, and they didn't really know what I was doing. And so quite early on, it was just about trying to get them to trust me with things, and you know, things that they'd normally maybe speak to their agent or even figure out themselves, or actually in reality not figure out at all. They were like, oh, actually, there's this guy Hugo who can help with stuff, and I it's advice I give to new player care stuff all the time, but like I try to find the players who were influential for sure, but actually the players who were on the periphery as well, who like no one really spoke to or sat by themselves at dinner. And if you focus on both of them at the same time, you kind of get the players in the middle, you know, along with the ride. So, yeah, I really enjoyed. I did 3.5 years there. So it was when Southampton were at their peaks. You know, we cup final, we got into Europe twice. We were 3 points off Champions League one year, which was crazy.
Yeah,
So
I remember that period.
like a really exceptional period, and I was really privileged to be a part of it.
Okay. So what kind of challenges do you think you face initially in those days as someone that's less experienced than you are now, of course, and as someone that's you're trying to, you don't have the same expectation, you don't have the defined, I'm here to coach you, I'm here to help you rehabilitate from your injury. What kind of challenges did you face in terms of your experience and the lack of knowledge of the role that you did do?
Yeah, I think, you know, I think two things. There's professional challenges and personal challenges.
Okay.
I'll start with professional. Like, player care wasn't really a thing, and
Yeah.
so I was taking a lot of people's not their jobs, but some of the things they used to do, and that rubbed people up the wrong way. Where they used to be in charge of this, and now Hugo's doing it, and actually they quite like doing that part of their job, and so that was tough. I faced some opposition internally, but I tried to show that, look, if I'm focusing on it full time, we can do it to a better level than if you're doing it as 1/10 of your job or 1/4 of your job, whatever. So I definitely think we improved it. I also had to learn the area. Like, I'd never really been to Southampton before, didn't know the area. I'd grown up an hour away, but didn't really ever spend much time there, to be honest. And so was very quickly trying to learn everything. But I think personally, like, it was tough for me as well because I didn't have any friends or family there, and I'd moved around quite a lot in my life. I went to university in Washington DC, then moved to Indianapolis for a year, where I'd struggled with kind of being pretty lonely there, to be honest, because I was just working so much, but didn't have time to make friends really. And then moved to Southampton, where again, like, you know, you joke it's only an hour from London, but anyone who lives in London is not getting on a train to Southampton. You know, like it's like, even to get people to come from East to West London is a mission these days. You know, so, you know, I live in East London. People in Clapham, you're like, they're like, "Why, it's like another country," you know.
It's a
So
whole overground line.
yeah, exactly. They're like, "Oh my, I have to get a head around that." Whereas if you try and get people to come to Southampton, that's a real mission. So ended up not really having a lot of like social life, and so all I did was work and then like work from home effectively. You know, I didn't really have that work life balance, and so I think you know the issue. Well, one of the issues was that a lot of the players were in the same boat,
Okay.
and I'm in a similar. You know, at that point, I'm a similar age to a lot of the players, and so you end up you end up not trying to become friends with them, but you end up almost inadvertently becoming friends with them. And that might sound like a good thing from the outside in terms of player care, but actually it makes your job really difficult because you are personally invested in a professional relationship to a point that actually makes it quite hard to be objective. And sometimes, like, you know, potentially the club would be fighting with the player about something, a contract or a transfer or whatever. And I'd be seeing both sides. I'd probably be hearing conversation about side, but I'd be like, that's my friend they're talking about. And I think as I've got older, I've really, and more experience, I've gone, I can be friendly with players, as in, but it's a professional friendship that isn't like dinners, it isn't like hanging out, it certainly isn't going to nightclubs and stuff like that. And so, but I learned that the hard way where I got caught in the middle a couple of times, but also like when the first player I was really close with left, he left quite suddenly, and it almost was like getting dumped because like you see someone every day and you're hanging out with them and you're friends, and then they go, you know, move to another city, and you're like, probably like I've seen, you know, saw that guy maybe 5 times again, you know, in my life, and you're like, what did I do wrong, you know? But actually, like that's I think every person who's worked at PlayCare will get that feeling when they go, that first player they're close with goes, and you're like, oh my god. And now I'm a lot more not cold, I don't think, but like a lot more um it's a lot more separation where you're like, yeah, absolutely, I care about you and I care about your family, but I'm also like paid to care, and so like it's my job. And I think that's where I've become a better player care person, where I've had that step back from the personal and now it's a professional.
That's really great reflection, and I think when you're working with people in an aspect where you are caring and you are showing,
Yeah,
you are humanizing it is easy to get in to
yeah,
fall into that kind of thing.
yeah.
Um, was there like a particular moment where you realized, yeah, I need to be more professional, or was it just a build up of
Yeah,
things?
it was more of a build up of things. I think, you know, there are incidents with players, usually when the club is talking about them or having discussions with them, and you think, and I'm privy to both what they think personally and what the club's saying. And it puts you in a really hard position because you are a club employee and the club is paying your salary. And so you ultimately have to be loyal to them. You know, unless it's something where it's unsafe or whatever, dangerous, you know, obviously then you would maybe speak up. But it's really hard because I'd be in conversations or I'd be in meetings or I'd even just hear stuff going around where, you know, they'd be like, I don't know. Yeah, there was one time where a manager was moving he had older kids, and he wasn't doing very well, and I felt like he probably wasn't going to last much longer, but he wanted to move his kids from abroad into the English schooling system in a really important years for their exams. And it was really tough because I'm like, as a club employee, I should be saying, yeah, absolutely, let's get it done, no problem. But as a person, you know, as a person, I'm like, this is really going to be bad for the kids when they leave their schools, they give up their places, they move across the world, they go into an English schooling system, and then 2 months later, he might be sacked and they have to go back. And so he's saying, like, we need to find these places in schools. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, cool. And I ended up basically just dragging my feet on it because I'm being like, oh, I'm not sure this place is. And like basically being difficult. And he got quite frustrated with me because he's like, come on, you need to sort this out. And he ended up getting sacked, like, I can't remember what it was, February of the year, you know, then maybe 3 months later. And he hadn't moved his kids. And I'm like, it's really tough because as a club employee, I should have just gone, yeah, he's asked me to do it. Like, it's a, you know, my job is to make him settled. He wants his kids here. Like, he's told me to do it, fine. But I'd heard grumblings around the club that actually probably wasn't going to last much longer. And so, as a person, I drag my feet. And that's a club, you know, where the club's conflicting with the person. I think that's really tough. And I didn't want to say, oh, actually, I've heard mate, I've heard that you're not going to be here much longer. Don't bring your kids over. I obviously never would say that.
No.
But I think in the end, I did the right thing by him, even though that was probably what no one in the club would have told me to do.
100%, because it's one of them ones where like you're thinking it and you understand it, and I think for you personally, based on what you're saying, you went through a lot of transition at a young age.
Sure.
Like, I mean, between uni and then between going Southampton and then going London, like that's a lot of changes.
Yeah, sure.
Before you even hit 25. So imagine like when you're young, being not okay, like boom, away from everything you know, because that's what you know.
Yeah.
To somewhere else that's completely different. I mean, when you're older, you can handle that better.
It's still tough though.
It's still tough.
It's still tough, and I think like that's something you see a lot with retired footballers. But I think it's often the ones who've either got injured and had to retire like out of their control, or didn't achieve what they set out to achieve, and you see them really struggle with retirement. Whereas actually the ones who achieved a lot are kind of, I did what I needed to do. I'm done, and you see it with staff as well. And like football's a cutthroat industry, and you know that football and loyalty in football is only ever one way. It's you loyal to your club because the club will be loyal to you until they don't need you anymore. And I've had a lot of my friends, at clubs, not even in player care roles necessarily, but in all roles where, you know, I had a friend who was at a club for 13 years and got sacked by text, you know, and you're just like, after 13 years, they got sacked by text. And you know, they're like, well, we'll pay him off, it's fine. You're like, yeah, but that's a trauma, really, where you're like, you know, you expect to go on holiday at the end of the summer, beginning of the summer, end of the season, and then, oh, you've got no job, and yeah, we'll pay you for 6 months, but good luck finding a job, you know, where you're the same level, the same salary, you know, he has a wife and kids and stuff. And so it was just, you see a nasty side of football, or it's nasty, I guess it's a ruthless side of football. And so I think like those transitions, you know, whether you're young or old, are tough. Yeah, I think, you know, like I was born in America. I moved to England when I was 6 years old. And I wasn't like a voting member of the family at 6 years old. But all I knew was that I'd grown up in rural Georgia, which is, you know, kind of wild anyway in itself. But I'd grown up in like an American kind of rural town. And then suddenly I'm coming to London and I'm like, but I'm American, you know, I felt American. All my friends were American. I'd grown up on the Pledge of Allegiance and, you know, quite a sort of conservative place. And suddenly I'm in London and I'm like, oh, I'm the weird kid here because I'm the weird American kid here. So, and I remember being really unhappy at 6 years old that my parents had taken that decision. And obviously in hindsight, you know, I'm pleased with it. But when you don't have a choice in something, or you don't feel like you're in control of something, it can be really, really tough to let go.
I think control is such a difficult aspect in life, because I mean, in an ideal world, good or bad, you want to be in control of your life, or of all aspects of your life. And it's always incredibly, even little things like emailing or texting someone for something, okay, and then you don't hear back from them. But that's because I've lost that control. I mean, people handle it better or worse.
Yeah, I understand.
And I'm using a very like little example.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, emailing someone about something.
Yeah.
And then you're not hearing back, but you're waiting on that email. So then you don't have that control, because that's on someone else to get back to you.
Yeah.
To then something that could influence your life.
Yeah.
And like it's hard to like let go of that control. Like, so I think it depends on the period of your life you're in and the things you've gone through. But control, man, I just feel like I really relate to that point that you've made. Is probably why I'm like rambling on.
No, it's good. I think like it's one of the, you know, we now, you know, we have a number of people who looking jobs, you know, job seekers, and when people don't have a job currently and they're applying for player care roles, it's really tough because there's so many applicants and not a lot of roles.
Yeah.
And when I'm speaking to some of my graduates who are unemployed, it's so hard because you said you send that email, you send that application, and you're refreshing your emails every 3 seconds, and it might take a month. You know, like I've been on the other side of the process where I'm like going through, and like I recruited for a job about a year ago, and we had 1,000 pages of applicants. Not even 1,000 applicants, 1,000 pages of applicants. And so I do want to spend time and actually go through everything, but that takes time. And so people submit, you know, if you submit an application first, you might be waiting a month for me to get through them all. But I know if that person's unemployed, they're like, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Whereas actually, if they've got another job or they've got other things to do, yeah, you're waiting for it and you want to hear, but like you can distract yourself a little bit, and I think it makes you much more appealing. So I always say to people who are like looking for a player job is like get another job, even if it's like in retail or it's in whatever, like get something to distract you and be happy with it, and then you then go into a job application process much more like you don't need it as much, because I think clubs can certainly they can smell that desperation sometimes, and then they go, maybe I can do better. You know, if this person's so keen. So I totally get what you're coming from, and like I think it's also why I've always been someone who like when I feel like it's not going well or feel like I'm kind of had enough of it, I'll just resign and go on to something else because I've never been sacked, and like touch wood will not be. Well, I work for myself now, so it'll be quite hard to. But like if I felt like I was going to get sacked, I would say, well, I'll quit because then at least I'm in control of it. Because I think that's really tough if you're not ready for it and you're not used to it.
100%. It's that feeling of rejection, isn't it? Like, I mean, rejection of um of not being wanted somewhere rather than in terms of in an environment you're already in.
Yeah.
Let's rephrase that word rejection to redirection.
Yeah.
I've been redirected by a lot of player care jobs, applications.
Yeah.
Some I think I tried my best and done a good application.
Yeah.
Some could have done better.
Yeah.
Some application processes are a bit more complicated. They want you to write a statement. They want you to. Someone just send your CV, cover letter, and like it's tough out there, man. But it doesn't. Obviously, it's disappointing when you get the unfortunately we're not or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same in other jobs in football and in sport in elite sport, where it's extremely competitive.
Yeah.
But why do you think it's so hard to get into? Why do you think it's so competitive to get into player care and other jobs in a football club?
Well, I think whenever I've been recruiting for clubs, you not only have people who are qualified for the job, but you get people who are overqualified who are fans. Okay. And like I think especially a player care job, like the idea of it from the outside is you get to hang out with footballers all day. Great, like and so we would get like, I think when I was at West Ham we recruited for 2 roles and we had like CEOs of companies who were like, I want to be head of like not play I was head of player care manager or whatever it was. And they're like, I earn enough money. Like, I have enough money. I just want to do, like, West Ham and my team. The idea of, like, hanging out with Mark Noble or Declan Rice or whoever it was is my dream. So I'll do it for free and I've got all this experience. And you're like, well, we wouldn't interview them because, like, you're not in it for the right reasons. But actually, if you're a 20-year-old kid that is going up against these super qualified people, it's really hard. Whereas in most normal jobs, you're up against people who have probably got a little bit less experience than you, maybe slightly more experience than you, but you're all kind of in the same boat. But also, I think with player care, there's less of a barrier to entry, as in like you can't be a head of medical if you've never haven't got medical training. You can't be head of analysis if you haven't done some analysis. Whereas you can be player care without having done player care, and I think because it's much more about your personality and your morals and the way you work and your charisma and stuff like that. And so it is more accessible in a lot of ways, but it just means it's incredibly competitive. And it's really tough because I know some really exceptional people who haven't got a chance or maybe got a very short chance. And then suddenly you'll get someone who's like, maybe I completely wrote off, probably unfairly, and they'll get a really good job. And you'll be like, that's unbelievable. Like, how have they managed that? But then they go and do really well. And so I think it is, unfortunately, it is a numbers game sometimes, but it's also sometimes who you know and getting to the right people. But yeah, it's just it is a really tough industry because football is more popular than ever and people want to work in it and they want to work close to the team and they want to work close to the players. And so, yeah, you get thousands and thousands of applicants for every job.
So what I find interesting about player care particularly is you've got your different category academies and clubs, facilities and stuff like that. Yeah. And like obviously like you got one side of you might have one club in, let's say like Man City, they have a lot of player care stuff from what I've heard. And they probably have different player care officers or they had a performance lifestyle role going. Yeah. Which is slightly different but slightly similar.
Yeah, yeah,
But then you go down to like, let's say League Two, let's say Coventry, not Coventry, Colchester,
yeah,
because I went down there,
yeah. Nice.
and it was two guys.
Yeah,
It was two guys, and they're watching over from under nines
yeah,
all the way to scholars and under 23s, and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's like, but then you're being, to correct me if I'm wrong, but you're being judged the same way, not the same way, but it's the same process.
Yeah,
Of like the way it's audited and looked at, like, whereas like in Colchester you have two guys and they can't afford more than that,
yeah,
wage wise and stuff, and then you've got Manchester City
yeah,
on a complete other scale and higher up in the pyramid that
yeah.
can, like, what do you think of that contrast in player care and budgeting? And
I mean, it's natural in football. You're gonna have clubs with
yeah,
bigger budgets, smaller budgets. And Colchester actually, like, to have two staff is
it's
probably one
great.
of the highest, really. You know, like in certainly in their, I think they're Cat 2 actually, but
They are Cat 2.
you know, still to have two staff and a non-Cat 1 academy is fantastic. So yeah, you know, like it's there's always gonna be that disparity. I think the rules are that you have to have one member of staff full time for a Cat 1, 2, and 3 academy, and for me that's not really enough. But you know, there are clubs who go above and beyond, like a Man City, but like a Wolves potentially as well. You know, they've got a really good setup there as well. And I think what we're hoping to see is more like a phase specific player care, because, like, I mean, you work in a school, you know, like, if you wouldn't have the same teacher teaching 8-year-olds and 20-year-olds aren't in school anymore, but you know what I mean, like, you wouldn't have the same kid teaching preschool and A levels. But in player care, we've got people looking after 8-year-olds and 23-year-olds, and it's very different skills needed. It's different,
Yeah,
you know.
100%.
It's and so I hope what we're going to see, and I know that some clubs have moved to this already, where you have someone for the FDP, the foundation development phase, the youth development phase, and the professional development phase, and it means that you can have a better player care to player ratio, but also you find people of the right skills for those age groups. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't expect, you know, Newport County to be able to do that and to want to do that. But you know, and unfortunately, those are probably the kids that need it the most, because they're probably the least likely to make a really good living out of the game. So it should, you know, probably be the Cat 3s need more player care than the Cat 1s, but that's never really going to happen. But
No.
it's trying to encourage clubs to do it and see the value in it. But yeah, we're still a long way away.
Yeah, I spoke to someone that's the head of player care in a EFL club, and I've spoken to a couple of people that this is what I'm trying to talk to different people that work in different clubs and different roles and in player care, because it gives me a more rounded vision and idea of what it is from the outside.
Yeah.
And so I spoke to someone, and they're having to, and they're not the first person that said this, where it's like, you know, they can focus more on the PDP players because they're there full time.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, you can't really put, and this is in the scenario where you're the one player care staff in a football club.
Yeah.
This is the ones. So they're gonna have to spend evenings outside of their contracted work hours.
Yep.
Being present, because that's one of the most important things with working with young people.
Yeah.
Is being present.
Yeah.
And being in their environment and showing them that, like, you're not a separate thing. You're around.
Yeah.
And you know, people are, if there's PDP and FDP, if there's FDP and YDP players training, obviously you've got, and they're not there full time, you've got to watch them train, because you don't want to see any children slip through the cracks of they might be struggling with something, or they might, or just, you know, the casual chat. You know, I think young people, especially young boys, I think they really appreciate that casual. You're right. How's it going? That 5-minute talk, that informal chat.
Yeah.
And then to be one person to split yourself across all that, I think it's really commendable to the people that are in those kind of academies, because it's the care and they're really trying.
Yeah. But I think, you know, I was at an event last night with Ian Wright.
Okay.
And he spoke. It was actually I'm on the board of a charity called Football Beyond Borders.
Yeah, they work in my school actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, they're brilliant. And he was actually speaking to practitioners, so whoever's in your school probably was there, and they were talking about the importance of trusted adults and all of that. But he said it's so important that you as practitioners, and it applies to player care staff, take time for yourself as well, because like player care never finishes. You can never finish your to-do list. Like there's always more you could be doing, but especially with academies where you've got different age groups training every night of the week, you got weekends, you got morning meetings and stuff like that. You could easily work, 18 hours a day for 7 days a week and still not be done. And so, and there's that feeling that actually like it's almost like a guilt sometimes that you're letting people down if you're not available. But I worked incredibly hard, and first team's a little bit different to academy, but like I worked incredibly hard for like 7 years straight. Basically, I didn't have much time off because I always needed to be there or feel like I was there for players in case of an emergency. But what I realized when I left West Ham, I was so burnt out by being on call all the time. Like, but you're talking about 24 hours a day on call. Like, my phone could go off at any minute of any day, and I'd have to respond in an emergency, and that's very important, very difficult on your personal life and on your mental health, and also like your just ability to switch off. And I had a great team at West Ham, and but I didn't want to put that on them, so I would shoulder that burden myself as head of department, say, I'll be on call, you guys don't worry about it, kind of thing. But that is something where I didn't practice that self-care as well as I should have done, and so in the end I was just done. And like it took me probably 6 months out of a club before I actually really felt like doing anything again. Like not anything, I wasn't like in my bed, but like as in doing anything in football again or doing anything in player care again. And I think what Ian said is so right, because you need to have that space to be able to give yourself. Oh yes, sorry, yeah, that wasn't actually intended. Right, good pun. But it's so correct, the fact that it's, if you do not give that space for yourself, then you can't give up your space for other people.
So this is quite a theme that I like to touch on when I record and when I have conversations in general. Like it's that aspect of identity, who you are, and obviously we're many different things across our life, and ever evolving. And so, how do you feel that? Obviously, you had your periods of, let's say, pie chart, and then you got Hugo the son, Hugo the brother, or Hugo the whatever. Hugo who likes Eurovision.
I love Eurovision.
And then you got player care. Or work. Let's say work taking up. Like more than like 75% of that pie chart, and leaving the other bits of Hugo to the side. How much can that impact you, the job? Like how challenging is it for you mentally, and how much can it impact you?
You know what, I'd never had, I'd say, a real job. Like, I've only ever really worked at football clubs. So I mean, I've done some work at uni and stuff like that, but like summer jobs and stuff, but different. I'd never had a job where I got weekends off. So I would work 48 weekends a year, roughly. So I had 4 weekends a year off, I would say. It's national breaks. And I never really, like I miss so much in my life, my personal life. And I think even if you said the budget's 75% work, I think it probably a lot of times it was like 95% work, honestly. Like you give everything to it, and I felt like I was good at my job, but I was giving up so much, and the fact that like I actually would not even be invited to things anymore because people would know that I wouldn't be able to do it or wouldn't be able to commit to it. So could never go on holiday during the season, could never commit to even like dinner and stuff. Was really difficult because I'd be like, I should be able to be there, but if we sign a player or if something happens, then I won't be able to be there. And I was constantly like cancelling on my friends and my family and stuff like that. And so, it was really, and I don't think you understand it until you leave it, about how tough that is. And like I spoke to a head of player care who'd been at a club for 10 years and has left now, and I was speaking to her, and she was like, she asked me, how did I like commit to transition it, like how did I transition out the game properly? And I'm kind of half in it still, so I've kind of maybe got it easier, but I was like, just say yes to all the things you've said no to for the last 10 years. So I said to her, like, someone wants to do holiday in November, you're free. You're like, just say yes. You'll sort out things around that. Whereas in football, I'd always be like, well, I need to wait for the fixtures, and then I need to wait for international break, and then are we home or away before the international break, and then I have to wait for TV fixtures to see, are we playing on the Friday, the Saturday, Sunday? I mean, so you're always wait, and then you get too close and people can't do it anymore. So I would basically try and put my whole social life in 4 international breaks a year, and it's just impossible. But then in the international breaks, I'd be like, on a Saturday, I'd be like, right, coffee at 9 a.m., then another coffee at 10 a.m. with someone else, and then a drink at 11 a.m. And then I'd be so caffeinated, and like by the end of the day, I'd be exhausted. I should have just said, I'm going to go and sit in a spa or something, for those 3 days. But I didn't, because I wanted to have that personal life, and I'm a social guy. So it is really hard. And I think one of the things that I do regret is how little time I gave myself. And it was interesting because I went back into Brentford after would have been 2 years out nearly. Yeah, nearly 2 years out. And I had got my work-life balance very good. Actually, probably too good in a way. I need some more work. But I was able to be stronger with them and just say yeah, I'll be there, but on this time I'll be on holiday, or this time won't be available. I'm going to leave early every Wednesday to coach Stonewall or whatever it was. And it was fine because I'm on my phone. If it's really urgent, they can call me. I had my work phone on while I was coaching Stonewall, and the players understood if my phone rings from someone important at work, my assistant manager will take over and I'll just step out for 10 minutes. Fine. We get it. But at West Ham and at Southampton, I was always saying no to other people and just saying yes to work. And yes, you need to be available as part of the job, but you have to also be able to go, I'm just going to take this evening for myself, or, I'm not going to go to this game. And at the end of my time at West Ham, I started saying, actually, my team are going to do this odd game. And it was easy, either a cup game or an easy away game. I'd say, okay, you can do that. And they wanted to do it. They needed the experience, but also I'm like, wow, for a weekend I can just be off. That's nice.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what we said earlier about control.
Yeah.
And I find it difficult in terms of communication control, but then in terms of your whole life and everything around and everything that is a part of who you are. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating or making it sound deeper than it is.
No, it's not.
But your friends, your family, the time to just sit down and do nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I'd done 5 years in America. So I left school at obviously 18, did my levels, went to school at 18. So left school, went to America at 18, was away for 3 years, sorry, for 5 years. But then I came back and I wasn't even present. I was here, physically, but I wasn't present in the fact that I was never available. So then my friends moved on. And so now I'm, when I left West Ham in 2020, I was like, all right, let's see everyone. But they've kind of moved on. I haven't been around for 10 years almost, so that was tough as well when I realized that some of my friends weren't really my friends anymore. They'd changed or I'd changed or whatever. So yeah, it's massive. But I'm not going to sit here and say it's been tough. I've had a great career and I hopefully still will have a good career. And I wouldn't have traded it for anything because I really enjoyed the experiences I've had. I sat on the bench at Wembley in a cup final. Okay, didn't win it, but sat on the bench at Wembley. I went Europa League. We played at San Siro against Inter Milan. I've run trips to America and China and all around the world, and I've met some incredible players. I've worked with 2 Ballon d'Or top 3 players. I've worked with some great managers, and so I wouldn't have traded it for sure. So yes, it's tough, but actually,
you're lucky,
what a great career. Yeah, and what a I don't believe in blessings, but what a great way I managed to get out, leave uni and what I've done since.
No, of course, and I mean it's always a scale, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think you've clearly evolved as a person.
Sure.
How would you from when you're talking about your time at Southampton when you were basically a new person in this game to obviously at West Ham. Actually, you know what? Because you said that Southampton and West Ham was when you were more locked into the job.
Yeah.
But obviously you left Southampton, you done what, 3 years there,
2.5 years,
but roughly from time frames. And then you went to West Ham and done 3-4 years there.
Yeah, 2.5 years, yeah.
How was Hugo at Brentford? No, Brentford at Southampton.
Yeah.
Different to the Hugo at West Ham.
Yeah.
Someone that been in the job. What was that kind of evolution like, personally, professionally?
I think the one thing that helped me is I was much more senior at West Ham. So
Okay.
at Southampton, I was player care officer. And I ran player care because there was no one else, but I was still an officer. I was a lowest level on the sort of banding level that they had. And I went to West Ham as a head of department. And so I'm already at a more senior table, but I've come in as that head of department. So whereas at Southampton, I come in as this like basically a uni graduate. Okay, I'd done 9 months in American second division, but no one respects that. And so I came in with a lot more credibility, and I came in at a much more senior level, and I was able to sit and actually really influence things at like a leadership level. Um, and by having a team of people as well, I was responsible for them, and we could do a lot more better in-depth work. But whereas at Southampton, I was much more of a doer. At West Ham, I was much more of a strategist and a planner. And yeah, I would still do a lot of work as well, but it was different work. I was stakeholder management, so I'd spend a lot of time, understanding the manager, how he wanted to work, dealing with ownership potentially as well, but also like building relationships with people at the stadium, the finance team, the marketing team, whoever, because I saw my role as much more than just player care, but actually like team. I was the team's representative across the business, and so whereas at Southampton, my job was just do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Whereas now I'm like, how can we do this better? And so yeah, you grow as a person, you grow as seniority. I grew with confidence as well. Um, but it was a very different role from West Ham to Southampton because Southampton I was a junior employee and West Ham I was a mid manager, you can say. Very different.
Okay. And then from West Ham to like Brentford slash Newcastle, which was first actually?
Brentford, yeah.
So like Brentford and then following Newcastle. Like what? I feel like Brentford is when you started to put down your foot on yourself.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I was never an employee at Brentford, so
Yeah.
I was always a consultant, even though I was like basically full time. Newcastle was different because I wasn't actually doing player care there. I was like consulting with them. I
Okay.
was Brentford. I actually was interim head of player care for a number of months. Brentford was fascinating because first of all, it's a brilliant club, and like it was the best club I'd ever worked for by quite a long way, and good people there who wanted to get better, wanted to learn, really engaged with what I was doing in player care, but also kind of knew that they didn't maybe have the knowledge base or the experience to do it. And so it was just the dream consultancy role. Like I would, if every one of my contracts worked like that, I'd be very, very happy because it was just great. Um, and so, but I was also like, I needed it less, and that seems really like almost disrespectful to Brentford, and it doesn't shouldn't be. But like West Ham, although they finished below Brentford, are a big club. Brentford are a smaller club in terms of like impact and notoriety and stuff like that. And Brentford are a smaller club, but they're a better club in a lot of ways. And so it was kind of like I'd already done this role. I'd already been a head of player care at a Premier League club. It wasn't it was a new challenge in some ways, but it wasn't a new job for me. And so I felt much stronger in my negotiating position where I was like, I know I can do a great job for you guys. These are my terms at how it's going to work. And I wasn't unreasonable, but like Brentford were very accommodating and very happy for me to like keep teaching, for example, or keep coaching Stonewall even, until but then I decided it wasn't right. They were very supportive with me as a person, and that's the Brentford philosophy is like people first, and they really do preach that more than any club I've worked at. But I also knew that like I wasn't going to be there long term. Like I turned down. They offered me head of player care. I didn't want to do it full time. I knew that I wasn't the right person. I didn't have the energy and the passion to do another 3-4 year stint at a club like that in that role. And so in my mind, like I knew I was going to go there to go in, set it up, hire in a good head of player care, and move on. And then the role grew and grew, and I started doing team operations, and I started doing like overseeing the kit and equipment department, and we grew and grew and grew, and it was really exciting. But I always knew that I was going to leave at some point, and we actually got close to negotiating me to stay full time in a different, and more senior role, but it we couldn't agree it, and I was fine with that. Whereas like 23-year-old Hugo, I think would have been like, what are you doing? You're going to become a senior leader at a really good Premier League club in London. That was always my dream. And then it was offered to me, and I was like, it actually doesn't work for me as a human being. And that, I think, is a maturity, but it's also like my ambitions have changed. Whereas when I was 23, I wanted to be, when I joined Southampton, my goal was like, I want to be a Champions League winning head of player care or whatever, even more than that. And now I'm like, I want to have a good personal life and a good work life. And so sometimes I'll turn down work contracts with the company because it's like, I have to go live in, I don't even want to say a town because I'll end up upsetting someone from that town, but you know what I mean? Like,
somewhere far away.
Somewhere far away where I'm not going to be happy there. My family and friends are not there. Like my partner's not there. It's so important that you have that balance. And so now I like prioritize balance. Like every September I take 3 weeks off and I go to France. And that for me is absolute non-negotiable. At Brentford, I did it. At Newcastle, I did it. And like, okay, if I went full-time into a club, I probably couldn't do it. But as a contractor, as a business, I can say, yep, I'm free 11 months a year. September, I'm not around. And that for me is so important because I need to have that to look forward to and have that real switch off time. So I think I've definitely grown as a person to be able to say, no, sorry.
And it's just a lot of reflection. It's a lot of experiences. Sure. It's a lot of understanding yourself, most importantly, which I think is the easiest thing to neglect or misinterpret.
Sure.
So obviously you had your Premier League clubs experiences, one at the beginning, one kind of in the middle to higher, and then one like sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like you, in a way, you've kind of like, it's like if player care or the little things is here, you've kind of gone not away from it, but just looking at it from a different perspective, from a perspective of like overseeing.
Yeah.
Like correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
rather than like practically doing your overseeing now, which is I think is pretty normal as you go up the ladder in any kind of career.
Yeah.
So now in terms of like obviously you've gone from overseeing and you've moved away from like the clubs, well kind of. Not like completely, but and you've gone and started the player care group. So first of all, let's touch a little bit on how that started and grew. Obviously, you partnered up with people, you bought the course of someone and made it your own and things like that. But I'm just flexing my research.
Very impressed.
You get into a little bit of that, the player care group, and then
So it goes back to a bit of West Ham where I knew my time was coming to an end there. I kind of felt like I'd done I think I did a really good job at West Ham, and I hope people who work with me would agree. But I kind of got to a point where I was like, I'm not sure what else I can do here. And I was burning out. I was leading a lot of the COVID stuff for the team. It was just a tough time for everybody. And like, there were obviously people with worse lockdown experiences than I did, but it was really tough as a club because the rules were changing constantly. We were being pushed to work, and then the rules would change to make it harder for us to work and all this kind of stuff. So, it was a really tough, and I pushed myself through it, even though I was kind of already burnt out even before COVID, because like the team needs me, but also like I'm not gonna get on the job. So like I kind of didn't really have a choice. I just like have to keep going, I have to earn the money, I have to keep through this. And then as COVID kind of started, it looked like it was we had a game in October 2020 where weirdly we had fans in that early on. It was one game, it was Man United at home.
It was a 10%.
Yeah, it was
capacity thing at the time.
It was such, I don't want to swear on this. It was such a mess. And it was just a crazy decision in hindsight, but fine. And so by that period I was like, stadiums are starting to open up. COVID's going to be pretty much done. So I was like, put in my 3 months notice and kind of wound down, and it was fine. I left it on good terms, really good terms with the club. But I was like already like I had two things I wanted to do. One was have a break, and I'd actually booked to go. I'd agreed to go coaching football in Africa for 3 months, and I was basically going to live somewhere really remote, coach some kids in the morning, and then just like chill in the afternoon. I was really looking forward to that. But then also I was like, I want to start my business, and just I wasn't sure if it was going to be I'd actually do my business for a long time, or it was just a stopgap to earn some money until I found another club. But I was like, I needed a break, and so look forward to that. I booked my accommodation, and I was really excited to go out, study some more French, and also just kind of chill with people who like just really love football. And I thought I needed that. Then we got Boris cancelled Christmas, and we got locked down again, and then I was basically unemployed and was in a 3-month lockdown, and so I couldn't go to Africa, wasn't able to get a flight out, and so I was like, I better start this business then. So I kind of got pushed into doing it. Like, I pushed myself into doing it. And at the beginning, I didn't really know what I was going to do. It was very unsure. We had a brand, we had interest from people, but we didn't really know what we were doing. And so I was starting a bit consulting, but it just was very vague, quite aimless. It was, when I look back at it, I'm actually quite embarrassed with some of the stuff I suggested to clubs.
Learning and growing.
Yeah, it's learning experience. Yeah, learning experience for sure. And I didn't really want to go back into club that quickly anyway, so it was like it kind of worked out in the fine in hindsight. But then I was invited to teach on a course. It was the first player care course, and a friend of mine called Toby, he'd started this player care course with the head of player care at Sunderland at the time, academy head of player care at Sunderland, and he was like, "Can you teach the first team bit?" I'm like, sure, let's give it a go. So we did a pilot, really good group, and everyone was like, "This is really good. This is really useful." And so we put it on sale, and it sold out in 3 hours. Like, unbelievable. I mean, there were like rappers who have sneaker drops that would kill for 3 hours. Like it was really, really. And I was like, oh my god. So we did another course straight away, and we sold that out in 24 hours. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. So I ended up teaching on Toby's course for a while, and then Toby got a job, which meant he couldn't teach anymore. And I just said, oh, let me buy the course off you. And so I did, and then it became our course, and it was similar for a while. We replaced, Toby obviously dropped off. We got another teacher in Sue, and it's evolved now, and we're now at, as of June 2025, we're on cohort 22, which is just crazy, and that's grown and grown, and that's kind of, it wasn't something I ever planned to do. I'm not a teacher by trade. I don't, I guess I do enjoy it, but it's not my skill set, I don't think necessarily, but the feedback and the community we've got now is just so exceptional, and the fact that they just really, really are great. We've got nearly 400 graduates now, 150 of them work in player care around the world. I mean, that's really, really cool. So it's just been such a great growth, and it's really helped the business to gain that sort of respect throughout. And now, and then we've audited clubs, we've, actually, as I've gotten back into Brentford, like kind of interim role, we've developed an audit framework. We've put on conferences.
135 pages.
Yeah, 170 different levels. Yeah. So 135 was the old one. We've got a new one now, 170.
I listened to something from 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the levels have gone up. So yeah, but like we've tried to set the standard in a really objective way. We don't have commercial partners. We're very independent, and I think it's really important. And so we just try and be the support and resource to clubs, individuals, whoever it is that are interested in this space. But yeah, you said I don't work in it anymore. I don't help players relocate. I don't have contact with players daily. But speaking to our alumni across the world, we've got, we're working with a club in Mexico at the moment. It's just won the league, which is really cool for the first time in about 20 years. We've got a guy at Real Salt Lake who's just doing great work. We've got guys in China and Africa, and you just get energized by great people doing it around the world. And it's very different to what I was doing before.
Yeah, so you're kind of like, again, overseeing kind of to an extent, compared to actually
supporting, I think, as well. Like, there is definitely an oversight element of it, but it's supporting, really. Yeah,
you're kind of like supporting people to be better at player care based on your experience and the experiences of your colleagues. You're giving them that advice, and
for sure.
They're implementing what they learned from you into their own practice, and then in turn build a better player care department at their football club.
Yeah, and also feeding back to me as well. And I think that's where we get better as well, because like I'm old news, like I've now left a club in, I don't know when I left Brentford now, 2020, end of 2023 maybe, like, so now I'm 2 years out of date. And so that's why I need to speak to all my graduates, and also my non-graduates, my network as well. And I'm always saying, what are you seeing? What's working? What's new? What's not new? So we can make sure we're fresh, because like there's no point me teaching what I used to do 3 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever, it's about what's happening next and how you can be better. So there's a pressure on me to always be learning as well. So we've hosted 2 conferences, one online, one in person, and like I'm sat there listening to, Joel from Borussia Dortmund, and I'm like, oh, he's got some cool stuff there. I never worked at a Champions League club. Well, I guess I did work at Newcastle, but like I never really worked full time at a Champions League club. So I'm like, how do you prepare Jude Bellingham to be the best he can be? And so it's interesting, and I think I'm always trying to learn and trying to connect with whether it's people from other sports, maybe in America or whatever. There's just so many different angles, and I think you've got to be learning. You've got to be curious.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much you can gain value from everyone. I think, good or bad.
Yeah.
Like I always see it as, I gain value from. Let's say I'm gaining value from you now in this conversation we're having in terms of how you see things and what and just things you're telling me directly.
Yeah.
But then I'm gaining value. Let's say I didn't like anything you said and I thought it was all rubbish.
Yeah.
But I'm gaining value because I'm like,
Sure.
this guy's talking rubbish. I don't want to. I know I'm not gonna talk to him, or I know what kind of person I want to gain. Two opposite ends, and if you disagree, call me out, tell me I'm talking rubbish. But
no, I think a lot. Like I've worked with some great managers and great leaders. Some people have achieved unbelievable things, and I always try and see how can I be more like them, but actually often how can I be less like them as well. Like there are some things of managers I really like, and there's some things I'm like, God, I hope I'm not that boss, and so. Yeah, that's life. And that's why I think it's hard when you're young, because I think if you'd asked 23-year-old Hugo like 6 months into West Southampton, I'd be like, yeah, I know everything about player care. And now I'd probably say I know more about player care, but probably in 10 years' time, if I'm still doing this, which maybe I'm not, then I'll probably know even more. And that's what experience brings you. And I think like I've seen more things, I've dealt with different situations, I've dealt with so you do grow. But also, I've learned a lot of how not to do things based on other people that I don't like the way they operate.
I find it interesting as humans. Okay, I'm going to talk from my perspective before I reflect on the whole.
Yeah.
Why do people perceive value as what you gain rather than what you choose not to gain, kind of thing? I just think it's an interesting kind of way to look at things.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you go to the shop and you buy something, you value because you've gained it, right?
Yeah,
You go on Tesco and you bought a meal deal, you gained your lunch.
Yeah.
But then, like, let's say you go to a shop. I'm using rubbish analogy, but you go to a shop and you're gonna buy something, ends up being not good quality. You put it down. Like, there's value in putting that down and saving your money. And like, why is everything about gaining and having rather than push?
Well, I think I'd probably say short term versus long term, and that's the reality. Is like one of my my mentors, a guy called Les Reed, who hired me at Southampton. He said to me, like, you can build up your reputation over a number of years, and you can lose it in a second if you do something bad. And I think it's always really stuck with me, because like I try and make sure what we do is good quality. Like more than anything, I want people to like what we do, and I'm actually probably often even too nice with things because I want people to have a good experience. I have a hospitable mind. I'm always fascinated by the hospitality industry as a whole, because I think it's very similar in some ways to player care. And so I remember we once had a written complaint about one of my courses. It was like one session that someone got really upset with, and it was a philosophical agreement with one of the teachers. And I read it, and he sent it like 4 a.m. I woke up and I'm like, it ruined my day. It ruined my week, to be honest, that he was so unhappy. And I went above and beyond to try and, like, I agreed with some of what he was saying, but I also thought he was a bit unfair in some ways. But I spent so long trying to, like, talk to him and basically get him to change his mind that he was then happy. And I think he did, I don't know. But, like, most people would be like, all right, but 399 other people have loved the course, so you can do one. But I'd be like, that one person would ruin my feeling. And so it's really trying to get to people and go, like, I want you to have a good experience whatever you do. If you spend £1 with my company, or you spend £100,000 with my company, I want you to feel like you're getting good value and that I care and that you've learned something and you've got, it's been good. And that's really, really important to me. And I think it's so easy to be like, I could put out, like, for example, we teach our courses live. I've always taught them where I'm on the Zoom call for 15 hours along with these learners, doing that. I could easily just record it and just sell it, sell a recording like a lot of people do. But then that's better money for us. Like, it's less effort for me, but actually it's not the same experience. And I want people to come back to Player Care Group. And we've got this alumni association alumni group. People still come back. They did the course in 2021. They still come to our free events, meetups. They still join our Q&As with people. And I'm like, you did the course 4 years ago. And they're like, yeah, but I love it still. And so I think that for me is the best sign of what we're doing is great, rather than I could make more money for sure by doing it a different way. But that's not me, and that's not what I believe in.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it really transmits the passion of not just towards Player Care itself, but just the people and people gravitating towards what you've built, and you wanting to have what you've built be the best thing it can be, because it's what you've built and you want people to enjoy it. Like,
Yeah.
So going in a slightly different direction, I wanted to talk about just what, or not direct. One question is, what's the biggest misconception of Player Care? Or like, what's the most ridiculous misconception you've come across?
I don't know, ridiculous. I think the kind of counter argument I get for Player Care a lot is that you're just there to, like, I'm trying to do it without swearing, wipe their bums. You're just there to be like, a gopher to the players. They click their fingers, and Player Care, we run around to sort that. And it's not the case. Like, there was certainly an element where you're listening to their needs and you're helping them, but also I think good Player Care is pushing back on players and saying, actually, I'm not sure that's right, it's not appropriate, it's potentially not even legal. And so I think when clubs say to me, I don't believe in Player Care, it's usually because they're like, we don't want these players who are going to be able to do nothing for themselves. But that's rarely the case. The case is that actually the impact of the off the field, if players are not going to do, if they can't do something, they're probably not going to do it. And so it's whether that impact's felt on the pitch or not. And that's often what the decision is. And so I think that's where we get misrepresented as like a concierge function, where really there is a small element of that for sure, but it's really much more about, guiding them, mentoring them, advising them, unlocking, life either whether in the UK or somewhere else, and making it easy for them to transition and be at their best. And I think that's where I think probably the biggest misconception is.
Okay. And I mean, there's a lot of, like, obviously, as we said, the support you give is different at different parts of the club.
Yeah.
And we talked about it now. We talked about off camera. I feel like our conversation since we met up is kind of merged into one, which for me is a positive thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like social media with the younger 16, the 12 to 16-year-olds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the challenges, I don't know, there's loads, isn't there? Like,
yeah, but it's also changed, like I grew up, I'm 34 now, so I grew up with social media. I was like the first, really the first generation, but not even first really year, I think, probably to have, I had, what was it called, Bebo, when I was like 10. And
MSN.
like, MSN Messenger as well, but that was kind of more a chat thing. But like, I've grown up with it, but it's changed. Like, the way we use social media is very different. Like, when I sometimes had to check, like, some of the young players I'm working with their social media, and like, they'll have an Instagram with 0 photos. Whereas I've got photos from 2007 or when I first used Instagram, because in what we did it was like a magazine of our lives. Whereas them, it's like a very manicured image of what they do. And like, my sister's 10 years younger than me. She has like 6 photos on her Instagram, and they come up, they come down, and I just, like, if I post something, unless I've like offended someone, I'll just leave it up forever.
Yeah.
And but like a lot of the younger kids, they use Snapchat, and they just talk on that, and then there's no record of anything. Whereas for me, it was social media was keeping a record of things that maybe wouldn't be recorded. And so it's very hard for me to say, like, oh, this is how you should use social media to a 16-year-old, because I have no idea. Like, if I don't live in that world, I don't have Snapchat, I don't snap people because I'm a 34-year-old man. So like, it's I think it's like, yeah, it's there's pressures, but it's different pressures.
Yeah.
And so again, I think it's about knowing where you sit and where your expertise is. And actually, I think giving young people their voice and saying what actually is difficult, like with social media. And actually, I think sometimes it is that everyone's got a camera all the time. Whereas, like, I'm so old that really camera phones were kind of there, but they weren't really like, it was a flip phone with a click and it was rubbish. And like, it was a different experience. So, I didn't grow up in that spotlight where anyone can get you at your worst moment anytime. Whereas now the kids, they've got iPhones, they can do it anytime. So I think it's really important to not just say, well, what I did in 2013 with Facebook. None of the kids use Facebook anymore. I don't even use Facebook anymore. Is like, oh, that's how you should. That's the advice we should give them. It's listening to them and saying, what challenges are you struggling with, and how can we help that? You know, I think that's important.
I mean, there is things like social media footprint record, whatever.
Sure.
Like and how many footballers that you've probably like.
Yeah, we've experienced this. Yeah.
When we did that talk at work in football, and you touched a little bit on a time you had to tell a footballer to delete that.
Yeah.
Or like there's a footballer called Danny Ceballos, and he was posting some really vulgar stuff when he was like 17, 60, anywhere between 14 to like 17, 18.
Yeah.
And then he gets a big move to Real Madrid. And then that resurfaces.
Sure.
There was another footballer in Spain where he was a Real Madrid. He was signed.
He lost his contract.
That one. He was in the B team. It was only for the B team, but it's.
But that's again how social media's changed. You know, like I think I've had my Twitter account 15 years.
Yeah.
And like, but when I was a kid, Twitter was the way I spoke to my mates.
Yeah.
You know, so like I would post things that I would more like a group chat now, or like, you know, a conversation in the pub. I would use it. That's what social media was. Facebook was just my mates. Twitter was just my mates.
Yes.
Now, Twitter is a public platform, and you know, I have deleted a lot of tweets for sure. But like, you know, it's a changing lifestyle. So like, these people are getting criticized for things they've said in a different environment a long time ago, and I really don't like this culture of like going back towards people, because I mean this is kind of getting off topic a little bit, but we'll get to a point where when my generation is the ones in power, really, everyone will be cancelled. Like, you imagine seeing the Prime Minister's Bebo pictures. You know, because they'll exist. There will be the first Bebo Prime Minister will be there, and Bebo was wild. It was like, you know, like it was just like a really unfiltered thing with kids on it, and like you've seen it. Like I remember there's like this picture of Dele Alli where he's like the shades on and like he's like, that's mad. You see that, but like imagine when that's the Prime Minister or the President or whatever, and that will happen. And I think we'll get to a point where like everyone's got stupid shit that they've put on the internet when they were 10 years old or 20, 15 years old or whatever. And so at the moment we're kind of in that transition period where like people are still like, oh, you shouldn't have tweeted that. But like, I'll bet you my grandparents, if they'd had social media, they would have said some horrific things. So, you know, like it kind of is what it is. Well, but yeah,
it happened to me at work. They looked at my Facebook from like, and they pulled up posts from 2010. I wrote Sergio Ramos is a knob.
Right. Okay.
That's what I wrote.
Yeah.
And it was because Real Madrid won the cup and he dropped the trophy from the top from the open bus.
Yeah.
Well, then I wrote what a shit first half was England versus Algeria.
Yeah.
And then, you know, remember in Facebook, where it's like you become a fan and you join a group, but it wasn't a group. It was just you liking a statement that was relatable.
Okay,
and I liked some things that they found. And this was last year.
Yeah, that's right.
And they pulled me up on it, and I was like, I don't even remember this stuff.
Yeah.
And then like my manager was cool with it. She's like, just be careful. Make your thing private. I was like, even something like in a small scale of a school compared to like being a footballer who's on camera looked at, scrutinized for breathing too heavy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, look, I was an Everton fan as a kid, and I then had David Moyes as my not my line manager, but my boss at West Ham, and David Moyes is an Everton legend, and I searched my own social media for searched Hugo Scheckter and then David Moyes, And luckily, I mean, I don't know if it's more or less embarrassing, but it was all like, David Moyes, what a legend. Oh my God, love the Moyesiah. Blah, 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 this. And it was just like, luckily it was positive, but it was like, it was just really cringy that like, I'm now directly working with him every day. And there's a blue tick post from me, you know, from ages ago, which is like, David the Moyes sire, you know, and so, but you just like, you look at it, you cringe, and like he would have been like,
He probably wouldn't have got it though. Like
he would have been like, what why are you tweeting
doing?
that? And I'm like, no, I didn't tweet that now. I tweeted that when I was 15 years old or whatever it was. So like, it is what it is, and I think you've just got to. You've just got to go on from it, and we're probably wrapping up, but it's just like there's so many things that you can worry about, but I kind of actually bring it back to the beginning things, like focus on the positive little things, and you'll be in a good place, I think.
So obviously you went viral a couple of times for twos.
Yeah.
I wanted to
go for it. Yeah.
I wanted to transition that conversation smoothly rather than like going player care.
Yeah.
Social media.
Sure. Go for it.
But like obviously you showed me the first one off camera, which I actually saw back in the day.
Yeah.
On the train one.
Yeah, it's someone watching. She thought she was watching the England game live stream, but it was actually a live stream. Someone playing FIFA of those two teams, and I was sat behind her, and I kind of caught it out of my eye. I was like, "What's she? She's a bit of a strange one to be watching like a live stream of a gaming thing." And then I realised what she thought she was watching, and I remember England conceded, but when she was watching it, England had the ball, and she's like, "How have they conceded from there?" And I recorded it, like it was like a 9-second clip or something over her shoulder. Didn't obviously identify her in any way. And it got like 7.5 million views or something, which is crazy. But yeah, then earlier this year it went viral again.
Yeah, that one was a lot more. It was a lot more volatile, though. I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to get into what the video was.
Well, I think it gives context. I think so. Basically, I took my mum to Southampton, Brentford, to my old clubs. We bought hospitality, and there was a match predictor game. My mum doesn't like football. She predicted the score, and she predicted Brentford to win 5-0, which at St Mary's is a bit rough. So Brentford at this point hadn't won away all season, and Southampton we weren't doing great, but it was fine. And then Brentford won 5-0, and it could have been 8 probably. And she won the competition, and I knew she probably was going to win the competition because there were actually one other person who predicted 5-0 as well, so she had a 50-50 chance. And she got up and she danced, and it was a funny video, and I posted it thinking that it would do all right, but not really trying to, like, obviously not trying to mock anyone or take the piss out of anyone, but it went viral like I've never seen anything.
Look at this funny moment.
Yeah, it was like a funny moment with my mum and like having a good time, I think 90% of people saw it as that. And then 10% of people got very, very upset. And I'm sad that Southampton fans got upset. Like, I can understand it. It wasn't my intention, but it kind of is what it is. But it was, it got pretty dark pretty quickly.
I was dealing with that challenge of like an overnight kind of virality, we call it, and then suddenly loads of opinions. And what was that like? Because you've gone from just a funny moment with your mum to... loads of comments about how you spend your time with your mum and what you do and this and that and disrespect or not disrespect or...
Yeah, look, I'm certainly not in the public eye anyway, but I'm semi-used to being like, at least like slightly known. I'd say at Southampton I was in a lot of the videos there. Probably was when like I was most well known. West Ham I kind of stayed away from a lot of that, and then Brentford wasn't really relevant. But like, I've always been like, I'm used to speaking on stage. I'm used to doing podcasts. I'm used to doing events. Like, it's not something I'm not uncomfortable with it, but it was such an intensity that I was really quite blown away by it. And I actually didn't really click on how viral it was because my phone ran out of battery as we were leaving the game, and so I had like 2 hours where I didn't see my phone. And I remember checking it before I went to bed, and I was like, oh my god, it's on like 3 million views, and I was like, oh shoot. And I had like all the newspapers trying to get like rights to run it and like, all this kind of stuff. I didn't respond to anything, and they just stole it anyway. So it was what it was. But it was mad because it escalated into a point where TalkSport had a debate on it, 5 Live had a debate on it. My mum got recognised in the street. Luckily, it was positive. I had it was a death threat, I guess, but it was more like a threat of violence if I ever went back to Southampton. People feeling really hurt and angered, and I think, my job, my goal has never been to upset people, and I was quite sad that people felt that way. But ultimately, the club put that situation together. I was just a paying customer who recorded it, and I didn't breach confidence. I didn't breach anything other than, they probably didn't want it on camera, but then they probably shouldn't have done it if they didn't want it on camera. But I felt bad for my ex-colleagues who had a hard time from it and all of that. It was what it was. I probably wouldn't have. I think, would I have done it again? Probably not, because it was more aggravation than it was worth. But it is what it is, and I think I'm not even 1/1,000,000th as famous as some of the people who get a lot of abuse. And having worked with people like Ivan Toney, who just gets racist abuse on another level, that's 1,000 times worse, 1,000,000 times worse than what I ever got. So again, I'm not going to sit here and say I've had a hard time, but it was quite shocking to see, it was in 45 different countries, 45 different languages, around the world. It was in newspapers. It was in, it was on Sky Sports News. The clip was being run all the time. It was on meme pages. I mean, my mum was coming up on my own TikTok For You page for weeks afterwards, and I don't have a public page. It's a little dark account, and I'm just it's just got no, it's a username, whatever, and I was just like, this is mad. But then it died down very quickly. It was red hot for 3 days, and then now I don't get any likes on it. It's gone. So yeah.
Do you think it got as much negative feedback because Southampton were doing as badly as they were at the time? Because Southampton this season had a horrible season. Do you think it was the fans' frustration of, we're rubbish this year, and this feels like you're rubbing salt in the wounds?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of the themes of the angry Saints fans was betrayal. I'd betrayed them, and I think that's tough because I'm not a Southampton fan. I was not a Southampton fan. I was a Southampton employee, and I was grateful that I got my first shot with them. But ultimately, I got a much, much better offer from West Ham. It was the right thing for my career to go. I wished them well. I don't think I was always treated the best there, but it doesn't mean I have any real animosity to them. But yeah, probably it's but I don't know. Someone could have had a bad day for other reasons and just tweeted it. But as I said, 90% of it was just haha, this is funny. But the 10% or even probably less than that was just really either I should never be allowed back to Southampton again. I had people emailing our company email, which is quite funny, saying that I should be sacked. And I'm like, it's my company. I don't know. I'm not going to sack myself. So, but it was fine. I think it is what it is. And there were a lot of people who were they felt betrayed. And I'm sorry for people who felt betrayed, because that wasn't my intention. But I also think it wasn't my fault that Southampton lost 5-0. It wasn't my fault that they brought a player up to give a prize for when they lost 5-0.
Not your fault your mum got it right.
Yeah, I mean, I probably in hindsight I should have said, I'm not sure, but actually, she got it bang on. So, it is what it is. It's in the past. I'm sad that it's ruined my reputation or my relationship with some of the Saints fans, but also
I just find it really not confusing, but or not strange. These aren't the right words to express it, but it's
it was sad. I think it was sad because I think it shows the polarization of social media, how and I think the problem with social media is that the replies you see first are the ones that get the most engagement, and actually I had quite a lot of people defending me in the comments, which I appreciated. And eventually I just stopped. It was too much. I couldn't keep up with it. But I was if you're in a stadium of 30,000 people, or say, actually no, there were 9 million people who saw that video.
Yeah.
If you were I was going to be in a room in a country with 9 million people, and 10 of them are going, I hate this, you won't hear it. But on social media, because they're directly into you and into your phone, you do hear it and you do see it, and Twitter amplifies it. And so, yeah, it is what it is. It was fine, but 9 million people saw it, 50,000 people liked it, as in liked the button, and 15 people were really, really upset with it and went too far. Some of them went too far. Some of them were fair criticism, but you know, it is what it is.
But that's what got attention. Yeah, I just find it crazy, like the way that like if a footballer left the club and fans are upset and they express it,
Yeah.
and they feel betrayed,
Yeah.
that's one thing.
Yeah.
But then like an employee of the club who makes a video, they felt betrayed by the employee.
Yeah.
That's what I find like.
But it's also like club fans don't change clubs.
Yeah.
So the club is their life. It's what they support, and they've done their whole lives. Like, gone are the days now where players are fans of the clubs they play for and staff of the fan. Like, there are always some staff and some players who support that club, but like ultimately it doesn't really exist anymore. It was my job, and so if you worked at Tesco and you got offered more money by Sainsbury's and a promotion, no one's like, oh, well, Tesco made you and you should be loyal to Tesco. Everyone will be like, good for you, mate, go ahead. And like, it's not quite the same, but it was effectively what happened, you know? It's like, I went, when I left from Saints to West Ham were in a bad time when I joined them. I got a lot of West Ham negativity. I got a lot of Saints negativity. And I'm like, I've got a lot, like, it's a much better job. I'm head of department. I'm living in London where I want to be. I'm getting paid a lot more money. Like, it was the right step for me. And the idea that I wouldn't take it out of loyalty, it's like, Southampton would have binned me off in 10 seconds if they wanted to. And like, I'm not saying they ever tried to, but like, it was just, that's, I think, the difference between a football fan and a football professional is like, I was an Everton fan as a kid. I'd work for Liverpool in a second. No problem at all. Like absolutely. 100%. I probably wouldn't work at Portsmouth, but like that's just.
That's because you worked at Southampton.
Yeah, though, but like I like also like that wouldn't be maybe a step forward. But like,
oh yeah, okay. If it was though, like,
I think I'd still probably struggle. I think if I went to Portsmouth, I would be so unwelcome in Southampton that it would literally not even be worth it. But no, I joke. Like, yeah, of course I would work with Portsmouth, and I would work with any club because like my job's not a fan. I'm not a fan of football. Yeah. I'm a professional in football. So yeah.
Just as we so this has been really insightful because I've enjoyed like I think what I wanted to make this episode about and how I like maybe I'm gonna open up a bit on like the planning and the BTS.
Yeah, go for it.
But as I wanted to have an engaging conversation, but I'm quite personal. I care about your journey. Like, yes, it's great you've done this stuff in player care. Yeah. But I want to know what this stuff in player care, how it affected you. Do you know what I mean? And,
for sure.
And what you learned, not what player care, what you learned from it, or what you think player care is. So I like to think that, and I was a bit nervous because I was thinking, this is a really good guest. I don't want to fuck it up.
Yeah. I know you haven't. It's been good.
Like, so, and I want them to enjoy the experience. So like, been a pleasure to have you on, to speak to you face to face, to talk to you on the level, and like made me laugh a few times. You're probably like the guest that's made me laugh the most.
Good, I'll take that. Get a badge, put that on my CV.
Yeah, no, definitely. Add it in your testimonials on the Player Care Group
there we go.
website.
Yeah, perfect.
What as we started with a bit of reflection, maybe we end with a bit of reflection. This isn't me trying to be deep or nothing.
Okay, you can be deep.
However you feel comfortable. But how do you feel this conversation went? What do you feel like maybe you might have learned or gained or not gained or learned from this conversation?
Yeah, look, I've been lucky enough to be invited on a number of podcasts, and so I'm always going into it with an open mind because I've done big podcasts, small podcasts. I've done, ones where they just talk about work. I've done ones where I only talk about myself and everything like that. I think it's nice the way that we've got very naturally into some quite interesting topics that are not like, I feel like I hadn't answered some of these questions before, so I appreciate that. But yeah, I hope whoever's listening will take something from it, whether it's they're interested in player care or not. I think that's really nice that we've had a discussion about so many topics, whether it's social media, whether it's, youth development, whether it's being a rubbish coach, whatever it is. So yeah, no, I've really enjoyed it, and thanks for having me on.
Oh yeah, well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this experience. So
good,
legend for
Thank
coming
you very
on.
much.
I'm always grateful to people that come on, but especially with you and the amount of things you have to do, and you've spared that little bit of time to come on. I'm always like, I always show a lot of gratitude to
No
that.
worries. Nice.
So thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation myself. I hope it's two-sided. If it's not, it's fine.
It is. No, it was. It's been good. It's been good. Thank you.
But yeah, so this has been me. This has been T, Hugo Scheckter. I'll put your LinkedIn or your Player Care Group website on the descriptions, and maybe a little
down here,
or maybe a little like pop graphic,
pop up,
like
right here, right. Do it here. Do it here.
I'll time that as I get better at editing. I'll
right here.
It'll probably come like before that, and then you go right here.
No,
but
and you'll do it over here. Yeah, fine. Nice one.
But yeah, nah, man, it's been a pleasure. So it's been me, T, Life in Sport, List Podcast, Hugo Scheckter. We're signing off. Always a pleasure to speak in the camera, to talk to different people. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. Anything reshare, all that kind of outro-y stuff. And yeah, big love, people. Hope you're having a blessed day, evening, whatever, at whatever point in life you listen to this. And yeah, signing off.